In this video, I'm going to be discussing PNG versus TIF with Easy Green Screen and with Photoshop in general. There's two big advantages to TIF over PNG, and one is speed. For Easy Green Screen, your batches are going to be much faster, and the reason is because Photoshop is faster to save TIF than it is to save PNG. So for this batch, with the same images, the TIF was 4 seconds per image, the PNG was 8 seconds per image. Those extra 4 seconds were save times just for Photoshop to save the files. And that time discrepancy will get larger the larger your images are. So for these images, they were 24 megapixel and it was 4 seconds difference. If they were 50 megapixel, it'd probably be around 10 to 12 seconds difference. If they were 6 megapixel, you might have 1 second difference. So it really depends on your image size. The next advantage to TIF that most people don't realize is that you're less prone to color shifting with TIF if your color profiles don't match between your foreground and background than you are with PNG. PNG is prone to color shifting, and I'll demonstrate that in the end of this video. The main disadvantage to TIF, and it's not file size because they're about the same, but the main disadvantage is you cannot display TIF on the internet. It's not a web format. The reason why PNG was created many years ago was because of patents with TIF, with their LZW compression patents. Those could not be used on the web because of royalty issues with the patent royalties. And so the PNG format was created to get around that. So that's why PNG was initially started. But with file size, a lot of people think that TIF file size is too large. That's not the case. And if you're getting large files, it's because of how you're saving. And there's actually two different settings that affect that. So I'll demonstrate both of those in a minute. But I'm going to show you here that in this batch that I ran, these were the same images. So for the first image, the PNG is 30 megabytes, the TIF is 27. So the TIF's a little bit lower file size. The next image, they're about the same. They're both 22. The next one, the PNG 27, TIF 26. And if you look at all of these, they're all about the same. Sometimes the TIF will be a little larger. Sometimes the PNG will be a little larger, but overall they're about the same. And the reason why the sizes are a little bit different is because they use different compression methods. TIF is using LZW. PNG is using a zip compression. So they work a little bit differently. But as far as quality, they're both lossless compression, so it's not going to be any difference whatsoever. So I'm going to show you the different options for saving TIF and why your file size is probably too large when you're saving TIF. So this is the first image in the batch, and I'm going to save this 3 different times with TIF to show you the different options and how that affects the file size. So I'm going to do a save as, and we're going to call this LZW off, RLE on. Most people know what LZW is, but they have no clue what RLE is. And these are both important for file size. So let's just hit save here. Okay, so LZW, I'm going to turn the image compression off. Again, this is lossless compression. There's no reason to never not use LZW because there's no loss in quality. It's not like JPEG compression. And so for the last one, the RLE, this is your layer compression, and this is on, and we cannot even turn it off. But I'll show you on the third save how we can turn that off. Okay, so we're going to hit OK. Let me save this again. And this time we're going to turn LZW on, and we'll leave RLE on as well. Like I say, always use LZW because you don't lose any quality with that. Now for the last save, in order to get that option to turn the RLE compression off, which is what we want for a single layer file, you have to do a save as copy. It used to be available on the normal save, but when Photoshop changed their save menus around, now you have to do a save as copy to get that. So we'll leave LZW on. Let's turn the RLE off. Okay, so our LZW is on. And now that we did a save as copy, under the layer compression, we're going to hit discard layers and save as copy. What this will do is if you have a multi-layer file, it's going to save that as a single layer. It's going to merge everything. In this case, the file is already a single layer, so there's really no need for this layer compression. The only thing that's going to give you on a single layer file is if you have pixels off canvas. So if you cropped your image, but you still have information outside of the canvas, TIFF will allow you to store that if you have RLE compression on. But if you turn that off, you're getting the same thing as PNG, because PNG cannot do multi-layer, and PNG also cannot store pixels off canvas. So this is giving you the same exact thing as you'd get with PNG. All right, let's go take a look at our different file sizes here. So these are the three I just saved. And you can see the one with the LZW compression off and the RLE on, that's a huge file size, 146 megabytes. The one where we turned the LZW on, but we left the RLE on, that's 67 megabytes. And this is what most people are probably doing. They're probably saving like this and saying, okay, 67 megabytes versus that same image on PNG is 30 megabytes. So you're judging what you think TIFF can do based on this. But if you know about how to turn that RLE off, now you're at 27 megabytes versus 30 on PNG, which is what the batch processing in Easy Green Screen does. So it's going to optimize that for you. Now, as far as image quality, I'm going to open these both up, and we're going to compare the PNG to TIFF just so you can see that there's zero difference whatsoever in quality. Okay, I'm going to select all, Command C to copy. So I'm going to copy the PNG and paste it onto the TIFF. So let's get in here and look pixel to pixel and just turn one off and the other on. So I'm turning off the top layer. You see that every single pixel is identical. I mean, you can get in Pixel Peep sample colors, but you're not going to see any difference whatsoever in quality between the two. And so the last thing I mentioned is color shifting. Let me undo this one here so we're back to the as we opened it. So this is our TIFF, this is our PNG. PNG, and I don't know why this is, and I don't know if it's by design or a bug in Photoshop, but if you're saving PNG where you have an sRGB image, if you're saving that from the Photoshop scripting image, it will not embed that profile even if you tell it to. I don't know if that's because the PNG is by default already in sRGB format for the web. So it's figuring if you have it in sRGB, it doesn't need to embed that. But if you go on this PNG file, and this is the same for Easy Green Screen 6 or for Easy Green Screen 7, but those files that were saved in batch, and if you go to Edit, Assign Profile, you're going to see it says don't manage this document. And that means there's no color profile assigned. Now you can get fooled because if you go to Edit, Convert Profile, it's going to show the source space and your destination space. But this source space does not mean that that profile is actually embedded in the image, because this will default to your Photoshop working space if there's nothing embedded in the image. Whereas if you go on the TIFF, if you go to Edit, Assign Profile, you're going to see that that has the sRGB checked. And so that's actually embedded into the image. So why this is important. So I'm going to create a new document in Adobe RGB because sometimes you buy templates and they come in Adobe RGB. So let's create this, turn the background off so we're just transparent there, and we're going to bring our cutout into this. Okay, so if you just take your image and put it into your, it's not dragging and dropping here. Let's just copy and paste this. So on the PNG, let's just do an edit. Oh, didn't want to use the dodge tool. Come on. Wanted to copy. So edit, copy. Okay, and we can see the color shifted there. I'm going to bring in the TIF document so we can compare. Select all, edit, copy. And if you get this screen, this is not actually an error. Now, if you click Don't Show Again, you'll never see it again, but I suggest not doing that. That way you know what's happening. But this is telling you the image came from a document that had sRGB embedded. We're putting that into a document that's got Adobe RGB embedded. And this is going to do the math to fix your colors so that way they are correct when it puts it into the new document, which is what you want. So if we look at the original image here, both PNG and TIF, you can see the skin tones there. And then we look at the new document, we can see the TIF image, the colors are correct, even though we put an sRGB document into an Adobe RGB document. Photoshop fixed the colors for that. The one on the right is the PNG, which did not have the color profile embedded. Then when we put it into the document, that was Adobe RGB, the colors shifted. And I think this is where most people are getting themselves into trouble with color shifting, is they probably purchased a template that's got Adobe RGB in it, which drives me nuts. I don't know why you would ever make a template in Adobe RGB, but I'm not going to go there. I'm just going to say that your images come in from a PNG without an embedded color profile. They go into an Adobe RGB, and then you get this color shifting. So, and if you had an sRGB, I'll do one more demonstration here. So let's make an sRGB document. So now, even though there's no color profile embedded in this, let's do another copy and paste on this PNG. You see, in this case, there is no color shifting because we put the image into an sRGB document. And so by default, the PNG documents, without having a color profile embedded, they are assumed to be sRGB for the web. And so when we put it into an sRGB document here, we shouldn't get any color shifting. That's actually handled by the color settings here too. So in Photoshop, your working space, by default, that is set to sRGB as well. So that way, if a document doesn't have an embedded color profile, it's assumed to be that working space. So when we paste it into this document that's got sRGB in it, it's treating this as if it was sRGB going into this sRGB document. I hope that makes sense. I'm probably way above most people's heads here who are watching this, but just know, TIF, you're less prone to color shifting, as you can see by this demonstration. TIF will batch faster, And in most cases, it's about the same size as PNG and sometimes a little bit smaller size. So the only reason you would ever want to use PNG is if you have to display that PNG on the web, and that would be the only reason to use it. So anyway, I hope this clears up a lot of misconceptions about TIFF images versus PNG. And I hope you start using TIFF because you're going to be a lot happier than if you are a lot happier with the speeds. And if you're one more thing to mention too is if you're using the cutouts for SPA or Easy Team Builder, it can accept TIFFs just the same as it can PNG. So there's really no reason not to use it if your cutouts are solely for going into the PixNub processors. Anyway, thanks for watching.